Why am I teaching them to idolize George Washington and this colonizer Christopher Columbus, but they can't even understand that why when they leave the building, they have to avoid certain neighborhoods just to get home safely?
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
I said, name 5 white people in American history who fought against racism and slavery. And I want y'all to think about that, because have there been 5 people? Yes. Way more than 5. Thousands. And I would ask you as a follow-up question, why can't you name them then? Because if we are to live in a society that is supposed to be anti-racist, meaning something that we create that benefits all people, not someone more than others, then we should know about people who've been fighting for years and years and years. We should know about Reverend Bruce Clunder, who was a white guy who was protesting school segregation in Ohio, and Ohio is considered the North. He laid his body down in front of a bulldozer in the 1960s to protest school segregation and died. We should probably know about Ann McCarty Braden, who organized with Rosa Parks, and she helped organize white Southerners to join the civil rights movement and to go against redlining, which was systemic ghettoization. She bought a house in her name for a black couple who could not buy a home in the neighborhood they wanted to go to. It's a lot of people. Reverend James Reeb, who marched with Dr. King. We don't often talk about John Brown, is probably the most infamous one. But even beyond him, there are so many other folks, even during the period of enslavement. What that means is we can never say they were a product of their time. Not necessarily. They were a product of peer pressure. Think about it that way. Because we know deep down inside when something is right or wrong. General Lee in the Confederate Army, he has a descendant, Robert E. Lee. He has a descendant right now who's a pastor, white guy, who's anti-racist. Was that an easy thing to do? No, because he got kicked out of his church congregation because of that. But it was a bold thing to do. So when we talk about miseducation, it ain't just like, dang, black people, y'all ain't learning your history. White folks, y'all not learning your history.
That's right. This is the video that made me reach out to find out who is this young man? Who taught him? Who taught him how to do this? All right. So this is how I found Ernest Crim III, Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, and activist. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Hello to you.
Yo, thanks for having me, Miss Karen Hunter. I was telling you, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. I've been waiting on this opportunity, so I'm glad it happened when it happened.
So wait, so how are you waiting on something? I reached out to you. Like, did you know what I'm saying? Like, and I love this because I do believe everything in the fullness of time. So when you say you were waiting on this,
yeah,
say more.
I have certain people that I know I'm supposed to talk to on their platform based on the work I do, and you are one of them. And I knew it would happen eventually. I'm just grateful that me reposting a video that was 2.5 years old caught your attention.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you know what? That's the thing. You know, it's constant bricks being put out. The work never ends, and you don't know, and you don't do it for the accolades or whatever. What really impressed me was you were talking to a group of young people, and it's like this more of this. We were just talking with Jennifer Jones Austin. More of this. Young people need to know. When you said 5, I could name 5, so I was happy. I was like, oh, I passed the test. But you're right. Most of us could not, and especially people who call themselves white, because it's not taught anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's why it goes viral every time I share it, because you have so many people who are like, dang, I really can't. But you can name how many colonizers, how many enslavers, these so-called founding fathers we talked about, people like Columbus. And again, that's a part of the miseducation process. White people should be disgusted with that. This whole education system is centered on you. and you can't even name 5 people who fought against racism, which lets you know how they want to use you in this social structure.
Amen. You have a book called How Black History Can Save Your Life, because you said Black history saved your life. Tell us about the first your entree into, like, the first, because there's always an entry point or a person. Like, I was talking today about Bea Richards, and it was like, if Maya Angelou thought she was amazing, I need to know more about her other than just she's an actress. But
Yeah.
I did the work. Like, I didn't just sit with, oh, that poem. That poem's cute. Okay, let me see. There's a documentary. Okay, I bought the documentary because, I was like, I want to support. And this is like 20
Yep.
years old. It's a 20-year-old documentary that I'm sure most people didn't even know about, and it's not on any streaming platform. So I was like, let me pay for that, and then let me make sure that everybody knows what I know. Let me go talk to Dr. Carr. Let me get somebody that I know who's read. If he had the book, he had the book. So I was like,
Yep. Yep.
there we go. Here we go. So what was your entree into this?
Like you said in your previous segment, it's my family. It's not the people that we know by name in the history books. These are unsung heroes to me. Reverend Melody Seaton, that's my mother. Ernest Crim III, that's my dad. Nikki Wallace, that's my sister. Ollie Knight, my 90-year-old grandmother that's still doing work out here right now. I was introduced to our history growing up on the south side of Chicago. I always tell folks that my household mirrored the Dusable Museum. And in fact, that's where it originally started, right in the house with Dr. Burroughs. So we had Black history stuff everywhere. And it wasn't just Black American history, it was also who we were prior to enslavement. And I always tell folks one of the most important things my mom and dad did was they had these pictures all across our house. It was a series called Great Kings and Queens of Africa. And this series was made by none other than
Budweiser.
Budweiser.
Yeah, Budweiser. That's right.
Right. So like you always say, we all have a role, and that was put together by a Black man who worked for Budweiser. So me seeing that day in and day out, I wasn't exposed to the 800, 900 murders that were happening in Chicago at the time. See, the image that people have of Chicago now with far less murders is not what we had growing up. It was based on our neighborhood. My mom was canvassing for Harold Washington when she was pregnant with me and my sister. So I come from that. My grandmother was sharecropping in Mississippi when she came up here. My grandfather is from Chattanooga, Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the shoulders of those folks who brought us here for a greater opportunity. So how dare I not carry this tradition moving forward?
Was there one figure? A lot of young men, it's Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? Was there one person that you were like, I can relate to this person, or this person has opened my mind differently?
You said it. My mom always said, we grew up, she would say we grew up in a Malcolm X household, is her saying. Malcolm X was always taught to us. We love Dr. King, but the way that I see my mother respond to conflict and the way that I responded to conflict most time was the Malcolm X philosophy. It was the self-determination by any means necessary, getting something done. On a personal note, when I was first exposed to Frederick Douglass's first autobiography in college, that did something to me. When I saw what he had to go through just to learn and how ingenious he was and how that intelligence he had was something that showed itself prior to him having the knowledge that was applicable to this society that allowed him to go all across the world. It's Ida B. Wells. These are idols to Ida B. Wells. Like, do y'all really know how cold Ida B. Wells is? So like, these are the people that inspire me to teach, because when I learn about them, I'm inspired. And I feel like if I give that knowledge to a child, that's going to spark their brain. Like Tupac said, I want to spark the brain, because I know that's all we need is the overabundance of examples of who we truly are as people.
Ernest Crim III, being in a classroom 12 years, you taught 12 years, you barely look old enough to be doing anything for 12 years, but here we are. We need to see, especially you went back home, and taught in the community that you come from, which is important, right? What did you learn teaching those babies over a 12-year period? And did it change? Did you see a change, not just because of what you brought, but like in a negative way? Because there was a lot, if you taught in public school, a lot of teaching to the test, a lot of teaching with the number 2 pencil, not a lot of teaching here. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, so I taught in two distinct communities. One was the south side of Chicago at an alternative school. Then I taught in another community called Joliet, Illinois, which has a similar demographic to Chicago, but the schools aren't segregated like Chicago is. So I saw both worlds and how that can coexist. When I was at the alternative school, I saw this is their last stop before they go back to juvenile, right? I saw a system that wasn't fully supporting our kids, and a system that if you aren't able to, like you said, fill in those bubbles and fit that mold, you're not able to truly be successful. I saw the school, the prison pipeline up front. And so many of those kids, it wasn't that they were bad. That's one of the most important lessons I like to teach that's present in my book, too. It's the fact that these kids couldn't even read, some of them at a fourth grade level. They were passed along. And when you don't have an outlet for that emotional instability, or the fact that you are behind, or you're not able to fully express that frustration, then you resort to other means. When I taught at a larger school district, the community of Joliet, I saw again a working class community of all different backgrounds, 80% low income students who are again expected to fit that same mold. The thing that frustrated me the most was in both situations, our kids are in food apartheid. Our kids don't have business. Our kids don't have political representation. Our kids are surrounded by abandoned buildings, gang activity, and things like that. But they are not being taught how to use history in a proactive manner to solve those problems. Why am I teaching them to idolize George Washington and this colonizer Christopher Columbus, but they can't even understand that why when they leave the building, they have to avoid certain neighborhoods just to get home safely? I did everything I could. I had my kids going outside for activities. We were doing all types of things. But the issue was, while I was doing that to expose them and open their minds, if the test scores ain't going up, they don't see a value in what I'm doing. So I'm getting excellent in everything else on my evaluation, but the test scores, if that doesn't show any progress, they don't look at it as something worthwhile.
If we were talking earlier about the dismantling of the Department of Education, which was instituted by Jimmy Carter as a way to bring resources to underserved communities, as a way to kind of democratize education in the wake of Brown versus Board of Ed. And to me, it has been a failure. I have not, so that this president is dismantling it, to me, it gives us an opportunity to build something. My mom went to Lucy Laney High School in Augusta, Georgia, was segregated, and they learned excellently. They may have had inferior books, but they had superior teachers. I think Brown versus Board of Ed, and I think Thurgood Marshall reckoned with that with himself, was not about integrating our children into these burning houses. It was about having resources so we lost great principals, we lost great teachers, we lost great schools because of quote unquote integration. And we also integrated children through busing into spaces that were hostile, which couldn't have been good. Even if they survived it, it wasn't an ideal situation. And now for the last couple of decades, we've taught them how to regurgitate maybe bad information, but that you can get straight A's if you regurgitate it, and if you got that number 2 pencil working, but they're not critically thinking. And I think it's scary. So now we can reimagine, I think, what it looks like, what it should look like.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue at this point in time is the legacy that we have from them was this urgency of having to know for your safety, the need to know to survive. During these last 50 some odd years, while we have been integrated within their systems, we lost a tremendous aspect of that. To your point, Jim Crow's Pink Slip, that book speaks to this a lot. Our kids, more than ever, aren't truly aware of who they are because they exist in a system that has the mirage of progress. We have believed for a long time that if we are in schools close to them, then we are doing the right thing. We have sacrificed so much of our personal stories to acquiesce and conform to those societies. So we can graduate with a 4.0, we can go to a Ivy League school, but then we cannot truly understand the legacy of our history and the importance of going back. One of the things I would often say is, how can you measure a school's success based on how many kids we send to college when the communities that they come from look the exact same or worse? I think this is a tremendous opportunity for us to go back to the drawing board, but I'm concerned about the loss of resources. But I also understand that when we lose the resources, meaning the things that they value, because they pull everything from us monetarily because that's what they value the most. That's not what we ever value the most. This is going to have to force us to go back to communities. We never, like Sister Karen, when did we rely on a school to teach us? The schools that taught us were an extension of what we were already learning about
That's
ourselves.
right.
That's why the teachers were the people that were at our Sunday schools. They were at the barber shop. We already knew them. My mom and dad, my grandparents, they taught me. So when I went to school, it was really just for me critically to analyze what I was not being taught. I was bused to a majority white school. I went to a black high school, and in both situations, the culture remained the same. I was still learning that Egypt was not in Africa. I was still learning that white folks were the center of world history. So we got to be able to deconstruct all of that moving
That's
forward.
right.
These systems ain't serving us. Your kids are graduating from college jobless. I come from the generation where we were taught it's you got to go to college, you got to do this. Now it's like, for what? AI is here, they taking everything.
Yeah, I mean, but even worse, we have lost the muscle of creativity to create what comes next. AI can only do what you put into it, and if it's built by people who have no soul and no creativity, us engaging with it might give it some, but the source is still us. So
Mhm.
if we're not building the systems that our young people can, so I do know electricians and plumbers and masons will still be viable folk. We still need them. We still need, people, but there's so much more industry that can be imagined if we just spark that in our young people. We're talking with Ernest Crim III. He's got a book out called How Black History Can Save Your Life. It's new. I'm going to give it to the third caller, 866-801-8255. I'm going to buy a copy. But your first book is Black History Saved My Life. It's a story of how you and your wife had an incident that was devastating. Tell us about that, and then how did Black History come in to save your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, so this was 2016. If folks can go back in time with me, this was during Trump's first rise when we knew he was a candidate, but we didn't think there was still a chance that he would win. But at that point in time, we were seeing a rise in hate crime. So we were seeing the culture embrace him. And by the culture, I mean the dominant culture in this country. So I was at an event with my wife on the south side of Chicago, South Shore neighborhood, the South Shore Cultural Center. I'm 6 years into teaching. I had up until that point already used education as a form of activism, but I was not on a public platform. We go to this event towards the end of the summer because my wife's an educator too. We want to enjoy ourselves before we go back to work. Again, this event is probably 95% black. Towards the end of the event, we're getting ready to leave. I noticed there's an open beanbag game called cornhole, and usually at these events it's packed. So I say, yo, let's go play that game real quick before we dip. We go over there. The station is open, but the group next to us, two black, two white folks, they have pretty much all the bean bags except one. So we're thinking how we gonna play. The music's real loud. We're in an isolated area. Somebody in that group throws a bean bag extremely far. After a while, my wife goes to grab it because we like, at least we got two, right? So as soon as that happens, a white lady in that group, like she dang near speed walk, power walks up to us and starts screaming at us about the bag. Um, the south side of me is like, you ain't getting the bag back now because you're being disrespectful. Her black friends converge and they come towards us, right? She's beginning to call the cops because she can't believe we took this bag right over this, right?
She called the cops for the
She's called,
beanbag.
yeah, and the cops were there as security, but she's gesturing towards them to come over. Then she begins to call us. You already know where this is going. She starts to call us the N word, right? So
And she's got black friends?
black friends, and the black friends, as she's saying this, are like, it don't, well, the woman is like, it don't bother us. The black guy never actually responded. He just was staring off into the distance. There are so many levels to this if you see the video, to just how this works in our society. So I take out my phone because I'm thinking the cops are coming over. I don't know what's going to happen. I want to have proof of all of this so that we can get some type of social justice. I have no idea it's going to become a crime. She keeps saying it, and I'm asking her to repeat it and give me all the information. And then as her friends kind of converge, she takes a step away, turns back and spits on me and my wife. Yep.
What do you do, Ernest Crim III?
10 years priorly, I lose my mind. I haul off, I black out, and I leave the rest to whatever happens from that. In that particular situation, I'm in the classroom for 6 years at this point in time. This is the summer of Philando Castile, Alton Sterling just finding out that Sandra Bland, they're gonna pretty much say that she committed suicide. There's a lot of stuff going on, Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. You already know what it is. The police are coming over. In my mind, I'm thinking I want to respond the way I was taught to, but I had to think about the future. And that's what when I say Black History saved my life, what I mean is this perspective of what our folks went through in the past informs how I act now, because every action is based on what I'm thinking about what this can be 25, 30 years from now. Am I going to allow this white woman to bait me to potentially lose my life to protect my pride and ego? Of course, I could whoop her to the ground, but is that what I need to be doing in this moment? By the time we kind of gather ourselves, the police do come over and she's eventually tossed out. But because I understand my rights, I'm a history teacher, I taught government a little bit, right? I know that was a crime now because you said that word, then you spat on us, and I found that I had the whole thing recorded. So now I got to fight because Emmett Till couldn't fight it. Dr. King came to Chicago, and when that happened, he couldn't do anything. That was an expectation. Right. So the progress that they fought for is now I'm going to fight for it, not because I think they can give me justice, but because I want people to see there are a variety of ways to fight. And as a teacher, all I saw my kids do was fight with their fists. I don't prove anything. I don't get any gratification by beating a woman to the ground, even if she treated me that way, right?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm giving him no, but yeah, no, you're correct. You're absolutely correct, Ernest Crim III. So,
well, she deserved it.
I'm saying I'm not advocating for violence, but spit to me is an assault. That's an assault. Yes, so it is an assault. But now we're in the second administration, which now those same people are even more emboldened, and coupled with the dismantling of the Department of Justice, any kind of EEOC, any kind of. So you may not today with that same situation have any recourse.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, what I'll say is how I responded isn't necessarily the correct way. I think there's nuance. I always tell people this. I tell audiences of all backgrounds this when I speak to them. Don't look at me and don't try to put me on a platform of doing the right thing. I did what I needed to do in that situation to survive and tell my story. I would much rather do this for the next 50, 60 years than have to think about what could have potentially happened then. But if you responded with fists then or fists now, you are within that right to protect your personhood at any given moment. I cannot say I would respond the same way now, Karen. I don't know. Because even though we can watch things and I can talk to folks and walk through, we never know what we'll do unless we're there.
Correct. What was your wife doing?
Similar, trying to figure out what to do.
Because it is. I think that is the goal too, right? Because in a normal place, we're civilized human. We actually are civilized human beings. The propaganda on us is the exact opposite. We're not the ones going and killing and maiming. And there was a freaking mass shooting this weekend in South Carolina.
Exactly.
We're not. That's not us. So, and we're also thinking consequences, right? Because the numbers don't bear out. There's all these other things to consider. But the indignity of that, I think, is the goal, right? To make you feel that thing because they're so unhappy, so unformed, so everything.
Right. Yeah, with black friends there who did nothing to intervene.
I'm so, and I'm not surprised at that, because in this time that we're in, I just finished Sky Full of Elephants, and in absence of white people, there's always going to be white people. When all the white people are gone, there's still going to be white people because the ideal of that, the thought of that, the proximity to that, people are still going to want to cling to, and it's wild.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not beg.